You got it. It's the moment you've been working toward for years. You did late night studying, you did extracurriculars, you did the standardized tests. It was all culminating into this single thick envelope. It's the golden ticket. It's the key to your future. It's the start of the rest of your life. But then another piece of paper arrives just a few days later, and it's the bill. And the number that you see makes your stomach drop. Suddenly, the dream feels more like a mortgage payment. It's a $250,000 decision for an 18-year-old, and how are they expecting you to make it? For decades, the narrative has been the same. Go to college, get a good job. It was the undisputed path to the American dream. However, with the cost of tuition skyrocketing faster than inflation, faster than healthcare, faster than almost anything else, we must ask the hard questions. What are you really paying for? And is the return on investment still there? Welcome back to the Banking Bros channel. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the true cost of college in America. We'll break down every expense, from tuition to that surprisingly expensive mini fridge. We'll look at how we got into this mess, how much of the debt the average American college student is drowning in, and we'll confront the most important statistic of all. How many graduates are actually end up working in the field that they spent 4 years and tens of thousands of dollars studying? I think this is the $250,000 question. Let's break it down. All right, let's start with the number everyone sees first. It's the sticker price. So I went to the College Board, and the College Board reports that the average published costs, and I went back a few years, 2023 to 2024, prepare yourself. For a public 4-year in-state university, the average cost is about $24,030 per year. For a public 4-year out-of-state university, the number jumps to $41,950 per year. And for a private non-profit 4-year university, the average is a staggering $56,190 per year. So a 4-year degree, you're looking at a baseline of somewhere between $100,000 and $220,000. But what makes up the number? It's not just classes. First, the biggest chunk is just tuition and fees, the price of admission, right? This is what you pay for the actual instruction. But I always like to read things, so the fees, tuition and fees, the fees is where it gets interesting. There are technology fees, student activity fees, athletic fees, health service fees, even if you never attend a football game or use the student health center. Next up, of course, you need a place to live, and then you need food to eat, so then there's room and board. The average annual cost is approximately somewhere between $12,000 and $14,000, and this gets you a tiny dorm room, often shared with a stranger, and a meal plan. And the meal plan often has restrictions, right? It'll force students to buy snacks and meals on the weekend, which just add to the cost. And this is where the budget really gets blown. The university estimates you'll spend thousands on things that they don't actually even bill you for directly. Let's talk about books and supplies. The average is $1,290 per year. And yes, some textbooks cost over $300 for a single class that you might drop a week later. Then there's transportation. Now, I don't care if it's gas money, because you're going to drive back and forth from the house, a bus pass, flights home for the holidays. The College Board estimates $1,250 per year. Then there's personal expenses. This is everything else. This is still your phone bill, your laundry, your Netflix subscription, your toiletries. Maybe if you're lucky, you can have pizza on Friday with some friends. This is easily $2,000 or more. When you add it all up, it's about $56,000 more to the sticker price, and that's kind of like the real number. We haven't even talked about the cost of starting college. Let's do that now. I'm going to call this the freshman tax, the $2,000 moving day. So before you pay a single dollar in tuition, you have to actually move in, right? This is the mountain of one-time costs that, of course, this is not included. No one seems to really budget for it. Let's build our shopping list, shall we? We need our dorm essentials, bedding, pillows, a mattress topper, because those dorm mattresses are basically like plastic slabs. You need towels, storage bins, a desk lamp. That's probably $300 to $500. Hold on a second, we're not done. Technology, you need a reliable laptop. That's probably $800 to $1,500. What about a printer? What about appliances? A mini fridge and a microwave are practically mandatory, right? That's another $150 to $200. Then you've got travel costs. What about packing up the car and driving across the state, buying a plane ticket to fly across the country, right? Let's talk another $100, $600 $600. Conservatively, you're looking at an additional $1,500 to $2,500 before you've even attended your first lecture. It is a pretty significant barrier to entering college that financial aid doesn't cover that stuff. Before we keep going, let's take a quick historical detour. How in the world did we get here? How did college get so expensive? How did a system designed for public education become basically a luxury good? To understand that, we gotta look back. For the first half of the 20th century, college was largely for the elite. But that all changed after World War II with the GI Bill. See, the GI Bill was set in place to pay for veterans' tuition, which means it flooded campuses with new students from all economic backgrounds. So the GI Bill was actually a massive success, but it created this new expectation. College was a vehicle for social mobility. In the early 60s and in the 70s, states invested really heavily in their public university systems. In 1975, state funding covered nearly 60% of operating costs of public universities. So tuition was really low, student debt was really rare. But starting in the 80s, things started to change. States faced recessions and budget cuts. So instead of raising taxes, it was really politically easier to just cut the funding for higher education. To make up the difference, universities now have two choices. We can cut costs or we can raise tuition. And spoiler alert, they chose to raise tuition. Simultaneously, the federal government shifted its aid model. So we had the Higher Education Act of 1965, which established this Pell Grant program. You might have heard of that one. That was designed to make college more affordable, but over time, the focus shifted from grants, which grants are basically like free money, to loans or debt, student loan debt. Banks and the government realized they could generate huge profits by lending money to students. And this is what created this vicious cycle. States cut funding, universities rose or raised tuition to cover the gap, and the federal government makes it easier to get the loans to cover the higher tuition. Students can borrow more, and universities just feel empowered to just keep raising tuition. Today, state funding on average covers only about 34% of university budgets. The rest comes from you, the student, mainly in the form of tuition paid for by loans. We shifted the burden from the public to the individual, and the consequences of that shift are staggering. The historical shift led us to a national crisis. Let's look at the numbers today. In 2024, the total student loan in the United States is a mind-boggling $1.77 trillion with a T dollars. That's more than our nation's credit card debt. It's more than our auto loan debt. That debt is held by 43 million Americans. The average federal student loan balance per person or per borrower, $37,000. For those who attended private schools or graduate school, the average is easily six figures. And what about families? How much are they actually paying out of pocket? According to a 2023 Sallie Mae report, the average family spent $28,000 on college in the last academic year. That's out of pocket. The money, of course, is just a mix of sources. It's like 50% parents' income savings, 27% grants. Those grants give you the money, 13% borrowing, 10%. It just comes from family members getting the money so the students can spend it. You got to think about this. For the average family, basically half the cost is coming directly out of your pocket, impacting your ability to save for retirement or handle emergencies. We've created a system where we're just sacrificing financial security of a parent or grandparent generation for a chance to buy security for the younger one, a chance. But my question is, does it really pay off? And this, I think, is the most crucial and critical question. We kind of just accept the debt and the cost because we believe it will lead to a better career. But my question is, does it? Let's look at some data. Let's start with the good news. College advocates, hear me out. The wage premium is real. In 2023, the median weekly earnings for someone with a bachelor's degree was $1,400. For someone with just a high school diploma, it was $853. That is a huge difference over a lifetime. But here's the catch. That doesn't actually mean you're working in your dream job. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York conducts this extensive study on the topic. They look at underemployment, which is just college graduates that work in jobs that don't actually even require a college degree. And in 2024, the underemployment rate is 40%. People that are working jobs that they didn't didn't need a degree for in the first place. So let that sink in. 4 out of 10 graduates are working in jobs they could have gotten without the debt. So what about working in a field that you actually studied? There's a 2025 study from Burning Glass Institute that said 52% of people are working in jobs they didn't need a degree for. 45% of people were still doing that a decade after graduation. For specific majors, the disparity is even more stark. For liberal arts or like general business majors, the chances of being underemployed, working a job you didn't need a degree for, are way higher than majors like nursing or engineering. So the promise that a degree, any degree, will lead you to a corresponding career is no longer a guarantee. In fact, over 50% says you'll end up working a job you didn't need the degree for in the first place. Over half of graduates, it's just a coin flip. So we've seen the staggering costs. We've seen the historical shift that puts the burden on students. We've seen the crushing national debt. We've heard of the sobering reality of the job market. So my question is college a scam now? I don't think so. For many, it remains the most reliable path to stable, high-earning career, especially if you're specialized. Things like STEM, healthcare, and the relationships you build and the critical thinking skills you learn have immense value. But is college the automatic, can't-fail investment that it was sold as for generations? The evidence says no. It has become high risk, high reward. It's a financial decision as significant as buying a house. But instead of doing it as a 20-year-old or 30-year-old, we're asking teenagers to make the decision. The solution isn't to tell everyone not to go to college. The solution is to advocate for a more effective system. One with transparent pricing, increased state investment, a greater focus on career outcomes, and a stronger emphasis on alternative paths, such as trade schools or apprenticeships, But until the system changes, the decision falls on you. To research not just the campus, but research the outcomes. To look at not just the debt as a future problem, but as a present calculation. To ask yourself, not where do I want to go, but who do I want to become, and what is the most effective way to get there? So I would love to hear from you. I want to know what's your story. Are you in college now? Did you graduate with a bunch of debt? I know that I certainly did, but I actually pay my student loans off using a life insurance policy. I know we talk about that a lot on our channel. We didn't really in this video, but if that's interesting to you, using life insurance to pay off student loans, then you should just check out this video next. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please consider liking and subscribing because we'll give you lots of more deep dives just like this one. And until next time, peace.